This is the 5 minute window into life, God, and the Bible. It was January 1980. It was the end of my first week in Sydney, Australia. I had come to Sydney to finish my final year of secondary schooling and hopefully to go into university the next year. Previously, my record away from home was being at the youth camps in Malaysia, which started on a Monday and ended on a Friday. So I arrived in Sydney on a Monday, and it was a week in Sydney, and my host took me to church. After church, we were going to the hospital to visit his son who was recovering from a motorcycle accident. My host asked me how I was doing after completing 1 week in Sydney, Australia. I told him that previous to this experience, I only spent 5 days away from home, from a Monday to Friday in a youth camp. So he made this comment that since it was now the seventh day I had come to Sydney, I had broken my record of being away from home. Thus began my journey of living away from home in Malaysia. Uh, I tried to escape from my family home in Malaysia because it had its emotional struggles. The first year I was quite happy to live away from home in Australia, but in the second year, which is the first year of my university studies in Australia, I began to miss my family and my home. Uh, my parents and my younger brother were on my mind, and so when you feel disconnected, you have questions going through your mind, and some questions that were going through my mind at the time was, where do I belong? What is God doing in my life? In the first few verses of Daniel chapter 1, the author just mentions that the Babylonians come and invade Jerusalem and take articles from the temple and the able young men to Babylon. He just mentioned it as if it was a mere statement. Don't be fooled. Because behind these verses, there is a lot of hardship and trauma. Families are broken apart. Children are separated from their parents. People are killed in the invasion and young men forced into captivity. But is exile just confined to Jerusalem of the 6th century? Exile can happen to us in many forms. Why does God send this cancer into my life? Why am I not able to find a job? Why do I find it so difficult to talk with my children? Does anyone care about us? Where do I belong? What is God doing in my life? And through this trauma, we read in Daniel chapter 1 that God sends two reminders into Daniel's life that he is still with them. Verse 9 of Daniel chapter 1, God caused the official to show favor and compassion to Daniel. And this is Aspenaz, the chief of the king's court officials, who is willing to listen to Daniel's cause. Secondly, God gives knowledge and understanding of all kinds of literature and learning, and Daniel could understand vision and dreams of all kinds. And you'll find this in Daniel chapter 1, verse 17. It was a new culture, it was new literature, and these four young men were able to adapt and learn new things about life, new literature and new learning. And Daniel could even understand visions and dreams of all kinds, which will help him in the next few chapters of Daniel. So, if you are feeling that you are in exile right now, I want to tell you, God has not forgotten about you. God will remind you through some event in your life this week that He is still with you. It might be through the presence of a spouse or a good friend. It might be through some verse in the Bible. It might be just having a week of vacation somewhere. Whatever it is, look out for God. Look out for God's revelation in your life. He is doing something in your life and He is saying something to you. Just open your heart to Him and listen to Him and respond to Him.